Claiming that motivation is the secret to success is the same as saying that the sky is blue. In appearance it is blue, but in reality it's not. Welcome! Let's go deep into this important concept of motivation that, as we will see, it is the second component of 6 in total to achieve our objectives and purposes, even to achieve our success. Our level of success in everything we propose depends on our persistence, perseverance, on our commitment that we impose on ourselves. As we have known for a long time, motivation alone is not enough to achieve our goals. Motivation is an aspect that is directly linked to commitment, to our ability to persistence to achieve our goals. This persistence, this commitment that we impose on ourselves to achieve something, is what makes motivation, instead of disappearing in a short time, remain with us over time. Any goal we want to achieve requires the ability to maintain that motivation that helps us to overcome difficulties and put us on the right path, that with time, effort and work will be essential to achieve what we want. Thus, whatever objective we are going to achieve, we will do so through the maintenance of that motivation that pushes us for the time necessary to achieve it. Our ultimate success is intrinsically dependent on our persistent ability to commit to our plan, and thus gain the motivation to achieve it. We can ensure that motivation is one of 6 vital components to achieve what we propose, and those 6 components are inspiration, motivation, intention, discipline, habits, and the passion. Although we will talk in depth about motivation, I would like to especially highlight the third component, that is intention, since by itself has an incredible power. The intention is something that has great value to help us to achieve our goals. If we build commitment, which is neither more nor less than the ability to persist, to persevere, to achieve something, we can build in these 6 different phases, which for some reason follows a specific order. The benefit that we are going to achieve by understanding each of these components is very important, since it forces us and allows us at the same time to focus on specific things at all times, and thus be able to maximize our commitment and persistence to achieve our objectives. Incredibly, we tend to ignore these vital aspects, and sometimes we confuse them, and this is unfortunate, since ultimately we need them to acquire mental strength, since we are going to achieve our goals and purposes thanks to our ability to persevere and commit to ourselves. Already, Calvin Coolidge, President of the United States, said, "Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with great talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence, determination alone are nearly omnipotent." Inspiration. Inspiration is the spark, the desire that initially helps us to start doing the things we have planned. Help us to be on the right track in the pursuit of our goals. Inspiration is essential as it helps us to begin to take the first step. No habit, no passion, any kind of motivation exists without this first step, that is formed by inspiration. Inspiration also has its dangers, since it is not sustainable over time. It is usually ethereal and easily disappears. In general, inspiration lasts only few hours, few days, so we must be aware that we cannot depend on it too much. On the other hand, a good thing we can do with inspiration is to reinforce it in the following way. It is known that surrounding ourselves with people who inspire something in us is beneficial. That's right, some people inspire us positively, just as there are people who depress us and demotivate us, simply by being close to them. Let's look for people, things, or places that inspire us. In this way, our initial impulse will be reinforced. We hear an artist sing and we are inspired, even want to sing ourselves. We watch a boxing match and suddenly the inspiration is born in us to also want to box. Many people who want to lose weight are inspired by other people achieved weight loss transformations and follow their example to find inspiration to help them start their diet. In short, there are countless examples. If we meet people who have previously achieved the goal we seek, the success we want, their story can also serve as inspiration. The success stories of others are usually one of the main sources of inspiration for us. Let's set out in search of achieving our goals. On the other hand, our history also serves as inspiration, since we can remember how in the past we achieved something that we considered difficult to be achieved, and after putting effort and dedication, we end up achieving it over time. So we can indeed use our past achievements as a source of inspiration. Great feats, conquests in human history have been achieved thanks to this first step, fueled by inspiration. In conclusion, inspiration is great to get us started, but we cannot depend on it in the medium and long term. The second component is motivation. The first thing to know is that motivation will surely stay with us longer than inspiration. We could describe motivation as the internal desire to do or achieve something. Motivation always is directed at something. It has a purpose. It is used to achieve something. The activation is essential to achieve our purposes, since it is like the fuel that keeps us on the right track. And it is essential and vital because it is exactly what we need after a short phase of inspiration. When we no longer feel inspired, the motivation comes into play. Unfortunately, motivation also has its flaws. Since it is not linear, it has its high points and moments of decline. Since we are not motivated equally all the time, every day, every month, etc. Furthermore, motivation changes with age. Nowadays, scientific studies know that motivation varies even in intervals of hours, even minutes, and this is easy to verify since we realize that throughout the day, there are hours in which we are more motivated to do something, and at other times of the same day we don't have the same motivation, which we notice has been diluted. But no worries, this is perfectly normal, and all this also depends on our emotional stability. And how could we enhance this phase of motivation? Well, one of the best ways is to have a clear objective that we have planned ourselves. In short, we must be motivated by something to achieve something. That objective in time has to be clear in our plans, since motivation is the final reason for human behavior. And if we achieve this, there will be days when we will be more or less motivated, but we will continue in the effort, in the perseverance, in the persistence, in the commitment of our plans, on the way to achieve our objectives and purposes. Any objective that has a certain value will also have a certain difficulty, and we cannot hope to have a smooth and direct path to its achievement. There will be good days and bad days, but motivation, if we understand it, will pave the way. We also know again that there are people, things and places that motivate us. Focusing on people, we all know people who, because of their way of being, because of their love, because of their personality, are people who motivate others. And the opposite is also true. Surround yourself with motivated and motivating people, and you will be motivated. Look for the positive and avoid the negative. Admit the results you obtain, no matter how small they are, because if they are positive, they will help your motivation to be more constant. Acknowledge your merits to yourself, and of course recognize those of others. This factor is essential to overcome possible temptations, to abandon in the pursuit of our goals, and even be proud on the path we have achieved, even if we have just started. As we see, motivation is fundamental, but it is only one component of 6 others that can help us achieve our goals. That's right. People think motivation is the only important thing, and has been proven not to be entirely true. We have to remember something important and fundamental, and that is that motivation is expressed graphically by waves, since it is not something linear, and we have to keep this in mind at all times. This explains that motivation alone is not enough. It is not omnipotent, and we need something more. The intention. We can express the intention as the commitment that we acquired with ourselves to execute an action plan, to go along the path that we have proposed to achieve our objectives. Let us remember the 3 formations of the human soul, developed in other videos, in the thinking, feeling, and willing. The intention slides between the feeling and the will, leading us to the realization of the actions previously thought, felt, intentioned, and performed by our operating will, that is the will. Unlike motivation, which is the search for a specific objective, the intention is rather a plan that we impose on ourselves to achieve it. In our objective to increase our intellectual capacity, that's the motivation. The intention leads us to take the steps we have to take to increase our intellectual capacity, the will. Another example, motivation helps us to visualize our goal of losing weight. For example, losing 5 kilos. And the intention leads us to control our appetite day by day, so that with the passing of the weeks and months, we achieve that goal, the will. Since there is no use having a goal being motivated by it, if we do not intend to do what needs to be done to achieve our goal. You can have the goal of being a successful tennis player, but if you are not intended to train 8 hours a day, it will be useless to have the motivation to achieve that goal. You need the intention and the action, yes or yes. The intention helps us to mark, sign what we have to do and what we do not have to do in the search of success. It could be represented by a plan or an instruction manual that will help us achieve our objectives. We can be motivated to achieve a goal, but the intention tells us how to achieve it. Without the intention, the objectives are simply wishes. And this is so no matter how much motivation we have to achieve them. Unfortunately, the intention has its negative side too. Why isn't self-reinforcing? No matter how much intention you have to do something, the reality is that you have to do it. Take it to the will. This is the action. We live in the world of action and not only of intentions, no matter how good they are. This means that the intention requires work, a lot of work. Persistence appears again in perseverance, commitment. But how can we enhance our intention? Developing a specific and detailed plan that we can follow step by step in the pursuit of our objectives. Take into account that also in this plan we have to detail that there is room to make mistakes or to make variations that help us maintain our purposes. The reality is nobody is perfect, and we can all make mistakes along the way to being successful. It is useless to self-flagellate ourselves, blaming ourselves, since finally what interests us is to recognize that we have failed so that we can get back up again with more energy and in search of our goals and desires. Sometimes it's good to enhance our intention, to involve third parties who know our plans and our wishes for the future. Since this third party do have a positive spirit, they can also help us in the inspiration phase, in the motivation phase, and especially in this phase of quartermaster. Throughout an action plan, you can acquire the intention to achieve the goals that inspired and motivates you. The intention helps us in those moments in which we are not very inspired or sufficiently motivated, since it requires us to follow the conceived plan. It commits us psychologically to continue. Unfortunately, motivation usually does not cover or match our intention, and that is why we need the next phase, the discipline. It is in the use of willpower, the will, the operating will, to achieve our intentions. But all of this happens when motivation flutters or is not enough to continue our path to success. If you are motivated, in principle you don't need discipline, right? False. Remember that motivation is not linear. It has ups and downs, so motivation without disciplines comes to nothing. Discipline can cover the gap between motivation and intent, remembering that at the end of the day, it is willpower that develops the discipline to undertake the necessary actions to achieve our objectives. That's right. Discipline is not good for those days when we are not very motivated and we do not want to do what we have to do. Discipline is a fundamental component to achieve persistence, perseverance, the commitment necessary to achieve success in what we purpose. Discipline also has its negative part, since it is not infinite, and it also has a life that, though it's longer than motivation, sooner or later is diluted with time if we do not develop it properly. Discipline needs to be recharged with motivation regularly. That is how discipline is. It also lives of a certain motivation and acts as a bridge between intention and motivation. To enhance of our ability to be disciplined, we must be aware that on our way to achieve our objectives, there will be bad moments, and thus not be surprised when these difficulties unexpectedly appear. It makes us aware that difficulties will come, but no problem. We are waiting for them, to overcome them throughout discipline. Our friends, our families, our co-workers, our classmates, even our teachers, coaches can be of great help to impose ourselves on being more disciplined. There are even people who find in religion, in their beliefs, whatever they may be, that inspirations to be disciplined. When we are faced with problems, with an obstacle in our way to achieve our goals and overcome them without willpower, it is that moment when we acquire discipline. And remember, this component is very powerful and fits itself. Training, practice in overcoming difficult moments make us disciplined, give us power. Unfortunately, today there are still people who think that with motivation everything is possible. Of course, it does not take long to realize that motivation without discipline is meaningless, has no benefit, has no purpose, and above it all is unattainable. Motivate yourself what you want, that without discipline you will not get very far. Training, exercising throughout the action and imposition of your discipline, what makes us all the stronger for the next obstacle that we find in our way. Many times we realize that a super discipline is not necessary to achieve our purposes, our objectives. But it is good that over time we are aware that we are setting the intention to impose our discipline, our willpower. The habits. Habits is the automation of the actions that motivate us. Habits help us to fight those moments where our motivation is at low levels. Habits also help us to stay motivated for much longer and with less effort. In short, good habits make us better over time. Be careful, the opposite is also true. Bad habits can destroy and ruin our lives. What motivation do we have to clean our teeth after eating? Well, little, but still we do it because we have acquired the habit over time. Really, not much willpower is needed to clean your teeth after eating. Of course, because it is already an habit. Habits makes motivation less important, or at least what we do not depend on it constantly. They also help us to do something more easy than in the past, force us to impose great discipline to undertake them. Good habits make us have less demand for motivation and discipline. They make things easier for us. They are fantastic, but they require time and willpower to acquire them. Habits are essential to increase our capacity for perseverance, persistence, and commitment in the pursuit of our goals. People with good habits have higher percentage of being successful in whatever they set their mind to do in life. The acquisition of good habits is very, very important to be successful. You can achieve commitment and persistence in the long term. Incredibly, habits also have their less good part, since we must be careful not to fall or rather to depend exclusively on them. This could make us slaves of our habits, and that contradicts our ability to exercise our freedom. Some people become slaves to their habits and can never overcome them. Being an extremist, even in this, can be a negative thing. There are many ways to enhance our good habits, including the ability to acquire new ones. Habits over time makes difficult actions easy for us, and although it is stipulated that they need many days in a row to create an habit, this is debatable. Remembering that habits makes habitual what in the past cost us great effort and perseverance, linked to motivation, linked to intention, and linked to inspiration. In conclusion, the benefits of acquiring good habits are unlimited if we know how to control them. And last but not least, in this new phase, the passion. The love of achieving goals that will lead us to success. Remembering that love is in Plato's four paradigm. The love of the good, the beautiful, the truth, and the justice. if our passion, if our desire, if the love to achieve our goals is greater enough, nothing will stop us. I do not mean to say that whatever we propose we can achieve, since we are adults enough to be aware that this is not always the case, no matter how much advertisement or gurus propose it to us. Passion is good to reach the level of commitment, perseverance, and persistence which we need to fulfill our desires. Passion makes this process, this path, this longing easier and even fun. Remembering that phrase that the adventure is stimulating and engenders optimism. Since the passion for something is contagious, it is motivating by itself and leads us irretrievably to achieve our goals. Passion helps us to increase our motivation, increase our intention to be more persevering and much more aware and free to develop. You can inspire people in a matter of minutes, but you won't be able to make them feel passion even after a long time. I would like to add that to achieve our objectives, it is necessary to acquire a certain passion, but always hand in hand with rationality, since passion and inspiration are very different things. Passion can last almost forever, but it takes time to achieve it. On the contrary, inspiration is cheap, easy, but it has a short duration in time. But also, like everything in life, you can enhance this passion, or at least you can try to give it a greater longevity. Become aware of the importance of what we are doing, that the search to achieve objectives is something positive and develop us as individuals and as professionals. We can well try to find the most harmonious part in our path if we try to see things with a certain humor. Let's help each other with positive thoughts and people who will surely make the journey more comfortable and faster. Of course, passion also has its low and high moments. It is not something linear, since apparently it is something biological the human being could not bear. Dangerous is the danger of being in love with love. On our way, never forget others. Whatever you propose, try to include other people in your desire. Because when you arrive, it will be essential that you share your success with others, that others benefit from your benefit. That is a good purpose. It also helps others to achieve their goals, contribute to their success, and they can contribute to yours. The conclusion is really easy to understand. Motivation alone is not enough, and although it is an essential part to achieve success, it must be understood that is one more component of the 6 main ones that lead to perseverance, persistence, commitment, essential for success. Not all of us are passionate about achieving our goals, but the vast majority of us can create habits that, together with intention, motivation, and inspiration, help us achieve them. We will talk about this in the future. And okay, if you're interested in our videos, I suggest you give a like and subscribe to our channels in English and Spanish, as we publish videos every week.